So I was afraid of leaving a house. I was so afraid of life and this idea that this is how my life was going to be. I can give you and show you exactly how your future will unfold in the next 50 years. Would you want to know? So my pulse would jump up to 250 beats per second.
Wow.
And if that wouldn't be stopped within a few minutes, I would die.
Do a whole big, heavy, you know.
Oh, it's very
just
nice and
conversation.
chilly.
We should ease in. In fact, let's just ease in right now like this. Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening to Spill. Season 4, back, baby.
Is it season 4?
Yeah, season 4 now. Yeah,
Good
season 4.
grief.
Yeah.
Thank you.
First episode of season 4. Love to have you on with Dorota Stanchik.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Well
for being
done,
here,
well
Dorota.
done. That was good.
You can stop sweating now.
I was actually like, did you see the little pause? Dorota's.
Mate, I could hear the heartbeat coming out your chest.
How are you?
Very good today. Very good. It's a rainy day in London, but it's beautiful. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you
No.
for being here. Oh my God.
Amazing. We have our first transformational artist, conscious, creative trainer, speaker, author. And obviously we've been trying to do this for a little minute. So it's amazing to finally have you in the room. And just before we even met, just your whole energy. Lucas spotted you straight away. He's like, I think that's the rotor over the road. And I was just like, ah. And I've seen you more images more. So I was just like, it is. But I was quite actually surprised that he kind of actually tweaked straight away. It was really, really nice. First question I want to ask, for those obviously that are kind of familiar with our platform, a transformational artist is...
Well, a person who creates art that is transformational for people. That is not only purely visual and aesthetically pleasing, but it's art that it touches something much deeper within you, within your soul, and creates a sort of transformation within yourself. So it's really it can be many different mediums. It can go from sorry.
Don't be.
I just got like plenty of images going through my head.
Love that.
It
This
can
is because
be
a beautifully complicated idea to express as it should be.
It's the first time someone actually asked me that question. So it can be everything from a video, from a sound, from music. But I like the idea of creating actually multisensory exhibition experiences where you really have that touch of everything, and you go through a sort of experience that takes you on a journey of inner transformation, awareness, change, shift in perception of yourself, basically.
When was the first, I would say, the first moment where you realised you were leaning into this? Because I'd call it a work rather than a job. I think anything that develops...
It's not even a work. It's really a passion. It's really who you are. I mean, I started as artist, photographer, creative director, fashion designer. And I was in that industry that was extremely superficial.
Wow.
Like the most superficial industry you can possibly imagine in Paris. And I went through, really from fashion industry, music industry, advertising industry to like technology industry. And I think maybe I would still be there if not my personal journey.
Wow.
I was really sick when I was younger. In my teenage years, I had a heart disease. I went through a heart operation, and then I had an autoimmune disease that was called incurable. And so I was told that I will be on the medications for the rest of my life, and that was it, basically. And because the disease was extremely painful, it wasn't an option to live like that. So when I was 19 years old, I went to India and I was like, I'm just going to find this amazing guru who will miraculously cure me. That's it. That was the plan.
You did, and that was the end.
And I got even more sick in India. So I had to be transported by plane from one hospital to another to save me. I literally almost died.
Okay.
And this started my first panic attacks. So I was afraid of leaving a house. I was so afraid of life and this idea that this is how my life was going to be. And I continue with operating and taking all the medications and seeing all the specialists. And there was this moment in time. It's funny how, health didn't actually break me that much. My Achilles foot is a relationship. So when I got to a relationship and I was left back in the day by a partner of mine, and that was the moment I actually broke to pieces.
That's interesting.
I just had enough of life, of this reality, of living this way. And so it creates a surrender that I needed to experience in order to let go of the control of my reality. And in that surrender, I was shown very quickly that life wanted for me so much more that I could possibly imagine for myself. So I was taken on an amazing healing path. Within 2 weeks, absolutely randomly, I found myself in a Buddhist ashram in northern Thailand, where, I walked in and the main monk looked at me and he said, "Oh, Vipassana, very easy for you. You meditated many past lives." I'm like, what? It's like, okay, let's just begin again. But it was really like coming back home. I started from zero to meditate for 7 hours per day. And within 4 days, I had my first out-of-body experience. I started to reactivate all my psychic powers. I could dream about future. I could see energies. All of that basically got awakened. And within 10 days, I was healed from the disease. So it's been 11 years I haven't been on any medication.
Wow.
And that was the beginning of my life. This is where I know you want to ask the question.
I have so many questions.
I ask myself, what is possible for us? What can we as human actually create? What we are capable of? And mind became my absolute obsession. Human became my obsession. Who we are and what we are made from, and what we are made of, and what is possible within our creation. And so I made later on a documentary movie on enhanced states of consciousness. I spoke to most powerful experts in the world. I worked with absolutely amazing mystics, and that sort of became, my path, that I couldn't do anymore something that was not transformational for people. So because I was an artist, I ask myself, how can I create a bridge between transformation and art? And how could I create an art that is transformational? And that was the initial seed of everything.
Shoot.
I was trying to keep track of I have 10 questions about this section here. There's
You're so funny.
4 sub-questions about.
Yeah.
I really want to pull back to, so many things, but to start with the diagnosis of your sickness, and if you could speak on that a little bit, and what that one experience of the life-changing diagnosis. I'm type 1 diabetic, so I resonate massively when you speak about the panic attacks that came with For me, it was like I was diagnosed when I was 22, I think it was 2018. Yeah, 22, and I actually found that the physical nature of diabetes and managing that and the sort of that was never an issue. That's never really been a problem for me. The mental compartmentalization of I'm now someone that has a disease in theory. I've been told I'm someone who has a disease and has to live this disease life almost. That was what sort of spiraled for me mentally, and having to manage. I equally was having panic attacks and terrified to go outside, and that's when that was my first sort of understanding of what a panic attack really is. Was in New York. I was walking down the street and I honestly thought I was dying. I in a way that you can't relate to after the fact. I found that when you're not suffering with panic anymore, you can only vaguely remember how extremely terrifying it is on a day-to-day basis. So I'm really interested in that segment of your life, if you're happy to speak on that.
Yeah, the panic for me, I was constantly afraid I'm dying, basically.
Yeah.
It's like literally you have this impression that the earth is falling down,
right,
and that there is nothing you can do. There isn't any safe place. you can be in.
Yeah, there's nowhere safe.
Like there's nowhere safe. You can't grasp onto anything.
Yeah.
Like it's the most terrifying feeling ever.
Yeah.
Your whole body is reacting as if you were literally going through death experience, right? You sweat, your heartbeat is super fast, you can't talk, you can't breathe, and it's very real when you are in this, right? And it's probably the most horrible experience of life, because if you are sick but you can control your emotions and your mind and you can stabilize it and stay peaceful, you don't suffer. If you are in a panic attack, it's really a suffering.
Yeah.
Because you would do anything in that moment to not feel this way, right? And the more you don't want to feel this way, the
deeper you go in.
Yeah, the deeper the feeling goes. Exactly. So for me, the panic attacks lasted, my goodness, a good few years.
Yeah,
wow. But
daily?
Not daily, weekly, I would say.
Yeah, right.
Maybe twice per week. But I was kind of so used to this idea of dying. So my heart condition was that I had a hyperventricular tachycardia, which means my pulse would jump up to 250 beats per second.
Wow.
And if that wouldn't be stopped within a few minutes, I would die.
Wow, yeah.
And I would have those attacks for like more or less 7 years on pretty much 3 times per week. So when you have one of those attacks, everything becomes black.
Yeah.
Like your body goes to shutdown mode, and then you can't do anything, right? So, and I was not taking it seriously back in the day. I was young, so I was like, okay, well, I have those attacks. There was no even like idea that I could actually die.
Right.
I think this is what made me very resistible with my heart disease. But then when the panic attack started, it was almost worse. Like there was no risk of me actually dying, but it felt so much more horrible.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right? Because it's all mental. It's all your perception of the momentary perception of your reality, where there is literally the darkest possible scenario that is going through your mind right now. And you look and you become obsessed and paranoid by everything, right? So yeah, it's a real problem. And for those who experience panic attacks, please, first thing you have to do is to stop drinking caffeine.
Yeah, right.
Big time. Because if you drink caffeine, that produces much more cortisol in your body. And by simply removing caffeine from your system, your body can't go to such a extreme state. So you physically are removing the possibility of panic attacks. So we don't know those things like hacking, those states physically are real. Like we can really hack this, before we will heal mentally to not go to those states for, different reasons, right?
There's a real commonality there with the diabetic situation, because if the threat of being diabetic, essentially the immediate threat of what people are really afraid of is called having a hypo, which is where your blood sugar drops.
Yes.
Too low, and if that's not treated quick enough, or if it goes too low, you can die. You can go to a coma.
Yes.
Or you get brain damage and so on and so forth, and all these things. So I was terrified of that happening to me. That was my number one fear in the world. To the point where, similar to how you're describing it, in a sense, it's like the symptoms of hypo were never ever anywhere near as bad as the panic attacks of my fear of having hypo. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I remember that the one in New York was like, my face turned to stone and my legs turned to like stone. Like it felt like I weighed 1,000 tons, and I couldn't think of anything other than just the fact that I was dying. Like, and that description of there's nowhere safe in the world. Like I had this imagery of like being like burrowed in my bed and it didn't feel safe enough. You know what I mean? There's no way you can go.
Yeah.
What stopped it for you? What was the
meditation? Really mastering. I do believe that our experience of life is internal, fully, 100%. If you can be in any place and you can feel amazing, if you are capable of mastering that feeling of gratitude, of humility, of generosity, or of blissfulness within yourself, and you can have everything in your life, be the healthiest person ever and feel miserable, right? So whatever we feel internally is reflected, defines our perception of reality, right? it's almost like imagine having a movie in front of you and then you have this really sad music playing in the background. The way you're going to see those images is going to be very different.
Definitely.
To if you had a very uplifting, positive song, right? This is how our emotional state gets projected on whatever we see. So if you can cultivate a state of peacefulness, gratitude, and humility within yourself, you can then have very different experience of life. And it's not dependent on any external circumstances. So for me, it was really to absolutely master my mind and my ego. And my ego is huge because huge ego means that you really had to create a massive defensive and protection mechanisms when you were little, right? Because ego grows as a protective mechanism against whatever you're experiencing. So people with huge, gigantic ego, most of the time, they had a very difficult childhood.
Yeah.
I had a difficult childhood, so my ego was huge. So to make it smaller, to master it, to be able to really work with my ego was a really long journey. To now I can really say honestly, there is no thought that goes through my mind that is random. Like I manage to control everything that I am thinking about. There's no rubbish. Yeah, I use my mind. I use my ego to be the driving force right now, to be the motivation, to be the fire. But I'm in any case a victim of my own mind, And I wish that for everyone. And it's really like a muscle that we have to train, because you've been programmed in a certain way your entire life, right? And most of the programs you're carrying are wrong and are very belittling, are very limiting, and you are constantly operating from a place of fear. This is how mind works.
Yeah.
Every desire that is created by mind is fear-based. When you really ask yourself, why do I want it? And if the mind answers that question, you will realize, well, I want to be rich because I don't want to be poor. I want to succeed because I want to be respected. I want to be in love because I don't want to be alone. There is always, the motivation is fear. Heart operates very differently. Heart doesn't have an agenda or plan. It is impulse of the intuition that leads you towards right places and right people, that will show you possibilities for you that your mind couldn't possibly come up with, right? It's like, do this, go there. And it's like, and your mind goes like, no, but I have to do this. We have to focus on that.
Yeah.
Really, right? But if you just follow that impulse, that intuition, trust me, we could evolve so much more that we imagine, because your imagination is your greatest limit. You can't imagine what you don't know. So you will always imagine what you consider possible or what is familiar. That's the realization you need to have in order to really break through the mind patterns. Thinking will not get you anywhere. As Einstein said, the biggest enlightenment is the enlightenment of the intuition. His main discoveries came from a peaceful moment in which he would quiet his mind and he would get this, download of wisdom that then was translated into all of his work. So it's the same. When we quiet enough the mind, the answers will come, the truth will come to us.
No, you said something that was really powerful, and I want to touch on it. Within the journey, at the point where it changed for you, you said that there had to be surrender.
Yes.
And then just for our listeners, you said something really powerful, actually, when you were talking about contentment, and the basis to reduce the panic attack was on the basis of the meditation allows for contentment, because what you're obviously inducing is peace. And then gratitude leads into joy, because it's the ability to take away the visuality of everything and find something to be thankful for that then becomes almost like an anchor. That was the big thing I heard, because obviously when you were speaking about how the panic attacks make you feel, that it's a sense of not being able to grasp onto anything consistent or strong enough to hold you up. Which the big thing that I think was jumping out at me, that the reduction that we have within our projective self to then create the space for us to be quiet enough to find what I call peace, which then will obviously bring alignment within yourself, you know, through yourselves. Surrender is the part that I think 99% of people fall down at, that hurdle, because it's relinquishing everything we've potentially taught ourselves to be, and it's an entitlement to a certain degree.
Control, yeah.
So how for you, like, how did you deconstruct that little wall so that you were able to kind of sit in that?
Well, for me, I haven't really. Life did it for me, right? Life just slapped me in my face and was like, what else do I have to do in order for you to let go?
Yeah, man.
And most of the time, this is what happens to most of the people.
Yeah.
Because if you understand that life is constant movement, there is nothing static about life. It's a constant process of transformation, constant process of becoming and unbecoming. How life works is like, if you hold on to a concept of yourself, an idea of yourself, a form, life will break it. It will.
Yeah.
So if you can realize that all of those concepts you have created, you've created them in order to feel safe, right? To have like, this is who I am. But actually, you are everything you think you are, and you are everything you are not. We have within us aspects of everything. That's why all of us are capable of feeling anger, sadness, happiness, joy, all of the spectrum of emotion. It's not about removing those emotions, because thanks to the one you can recognize the other. It's about creating the feeling of neutrality where you don't have any more preference, where anger can be as beautiful as joy.
Yeah.
Sadness can be beautiful. Pay attention. When you experience sadness, it can be extremely creative.
Good.
Right?
Great.
Nostalgia. It's a beautiful feeling. Sadness is not painful. Resistance of sadness is painful. That's what creates suffering. And so surrender is to surrender to any emotion you are feeling. Any emotion, and you realize it's just there to pass through, to show you something, to indicate something, to express something, and then it's gone, because life is movement. Everything within us, internally or externally, will move constantly, right? And so if we resist that, this is where when we will suffer, truly, right? Yeah. You wanted to say something.
Always, but I just really relate to what you're saying, and I think there's a technique I've learned in the last few years, which is very similar to what I think we're describing, which is to sort of identify the feeling I'm feeling, whatever it may be: grief, sadness, anger, love, joy. Generally, this happens in a negative experience because we don't seem to feel the need to qualify positive experiences in the same way we do with negative experiences. And I found this simply by laying out, first acknowledging the emotion, simply by I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling angry, asking potentially why, and the why isn't always relevant. Sometimes you are just in a flow of reality, as you say, moving through life, and that's the space you're in. But often I find that just by simply asking why and tracing that through to why is that an issue, if you know what I mean, why is my feeling sad right now a problem, why is my feeling angry, but generally it seems it's quite a hollow. So there's no threat there really, and much of what stopped my panic attacks back in 2019 and 20, it kind of, as it does, sort of peaks and troughs and so forth, was understand the base fear I had around having a hypo or having a panic attack was that I feel like I'm dying, or what if I die? And this sounds, and I love life. I love my life so much. I plan to have a long, beautiful life, but there was a point where I went, well, if I died, okay. Yeah. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Like what?
Exactly.
Why is that a problem? If I read about why is that a problem?
But it's the ego that is afraid of dying, right?
Yeah,
it's the ego that doesn't want to die.
Yeah.
And I mean, the path of life is to really destroy the ego
Yeah.
to connect to the divine part within you that is infinite, that is timeless, that is connected to everything that there is, right? And so you can't connect to that source of who you truly are if the ego is still there. And so life will take you on the path of destroying the ego in a way, and the relationship serves for that. Like people walk into this divine relationship thinking everything will be perfect.
Yeah.
If everything is perfect, it's not a good relationship for you, because the relationship should be your mirror and should reflect to you where you are at that specific moment. Is designed to bring all of your defenses, all of your self-sabotaging programs, and all of your hidden shadows up to the surface so you can work through them. The relationship is not designed to be comfortable. And if you realize that, it doesn't have to be a painful process. If you only will look beyond what you can see, what is happening between two people, and you will realize there is no trigger that exists in the present moment. If I erase all of your memories, you will never be triggered. Triggers are always based in the past, because this situation is making association with a past experience that wasn't healed within you, that is now activating the same emotional response and reacting in the same way. So if we could say like, honey, thank you so much for triggering me. Let's sit down and unpack it.
Absolutely.
Like where this is really coming from.
Yeah.
What was the source of that? And if you can do it together, what an amazing possibility to grow, right? But the relationship will feel great to the divine part of you, but will feel really shit for your ego,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's if we only could, look at everything from a bigger angle. I call it zooming out. Wherever you have a panic attack, wherever you have a fight with your partner, like zoom out and see really what is happening, right? It's not about what is here and now. Very rarely. It's like there is something that is calling your attention. And even when you said, well, I'm feeling sad. Are you feeling sad really? Because most of people operate between sad and happy. There is so many other emotions. And if you imagine the cards of emotions, powerless, disappointed, limited, most of the time you would pick something else than sadness.
Yeah. Wow, that's very
So
deep.
to teach, we have to learn to really identify what is that is present within us and what is calling our attention.
Yeah.
Right? And whenever we will recognize that, it doesn't have to persist within us, right? Yeah.
Why was
Relationships.
just about to say.
That was the most perfect statement. I think that. No, you said a lot of perfect statements, but in that moment, I think because it lends itself to every facet of our life, romantic relationships, personal relationships, are an intrinsic relationship. The reflection of what isn't perfect is the sign for progress and development.
Always.
And evolution. But because
100%.
we're so invested in the projection of what we want to present, that we often willfully miss the opportunities to be holistically better.
Because again, you stick to an idea of
Yes.
yourself you created.
Yeah.
Relationships are there to break that image of yourself, right? And so every person reflects exactly where you are at.
Yeah.
And so how it works and how I treat reality is that I literally look at it as a feedback. Where I am at, what is active in my vibration. So by how people treat me, I'm seeing what is actually active within me. If people reject me, it's not because they want to reject me. It's because I have an active in my vibration. I'm rejectable, right? I'm not respectable. I'm betrayable.
Yeah.
And so people will always respond to whatever is active within you. That's why notice when you will never treat, if you have 3 different people, you will always be slightly different with those people.
Yeah,
right?
big time.
They will always activate different aspects of you.
Yes.
Why? Because it's their energy field that is activating exactly within your field the kind of behavior that they need to experience in order to see themselves. So sometimes we will treat someone badly, and we will be like, oh my God, this is so out of my character. Why have I done it? And it's not because you wanted to treat someone badly. It's because they have it active in their energy field that, I'm supposed to be treated badly by people. They have that subconscious belief. And so they are manifesting and creating constantly that experience within their reality, right? It's fascinating. So in other words, everything in our external reality is just an extension of who we are and where we are at. And you can act from a place of victim. It's like, oh, this is happening to me. Or you can act from a place of creator. I am creator of this reality. What am I creating right now? And why am I creating this? And you can see every single experience as an opportunity. When I'm triggered right now, I'm so grateful because it doesn't happen anymore very often. And so I'm like, oh my God, something to work with.
Yeah, right.
And I'm really sitting down and unpacking it and finding the root. And most of the time it's childhood or transgenerational traumas or this or that. And I'm shifting the energy and how people will respond that, and you will see immediate change in your external reality. Yeah. It's fascinating. It's the quickest way to transform anything external. Go within yourself.
De-weed. I wanted to ask you about, and I want to get this right, conscious creative training.
Conscious creativity training. Yes.
Break that open for me.
No accidental, maybe it's not correct English, but no accidental creativity, meaning I am actually, most of us forgot we were creative, or people come to me, it's like, oh, I'm not creative. It's impossible, okay?
School is a big issue for me. Yeah. I think that because we all go through our first, I would say, transitions of life, especially childhood, and everything's possible. And the older we get, the more stuff we start ticking off the list that can't be that, can't be this, can't be the other.
Absolutely.
How do you now? Because to me, I almost see people in that moment. They're like, it's dormant. So it's an energy plug, but it has no connection. How have you found welding the conscious creativity part, but also them? Because I think within that, you find a version of yourself that I think is more, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess it's more authentic to people, if that makes sense. Because I think within our natures as children, we're in our best moment.
Well, and show me a child who is not creative.
Yes.
Right. Show me.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
We all had imaginary friends. We all built castles from sand, right? So if we are all born creative, where and what happens that we stop that?
Yeah.
Right? Education, like you said, school system, parents. It's enough for a child to be criticized one time, like, oh, this is ugly, right? What you draw, to shut that part down. But creativity is it's not necessarily to be an artist. It's the way of living.
Yeah, right.
It's creativity is expression of your internal world externally. How you dress, how you speak, how you carry yourself, how you cook. It doesn't matter. All of that is creativity, right? So many people feel they are not creative, but it's only because they stop expressing themselves, right? They stop expressing their desires, their needs, their individuality, their spark for life. And this is where this part shuts down. Because and it's so beautiful to see people unlocking that and just exploring that in the most weird ways, because there is no limit to creativity. Yeah. There is no frame. There is no definition of that. It's just pure self-expression. And that is a process of really deep inner healing.
Yeah.
You can't be fully healed unless you fully express yourself.
Yeah.
And you can't, connect to that pure inner authenticity if you don't express yourself. So that's why I love this work, because just by showing to people, it's like, you are creative.
Yeah.
What is your unique creative language? What is your unique, what is the medium you are going to use to express yourself? Just by showing them that that's possible, and they have that within them. I mean, I've seen amazing transformations and shifts, instantaneous shifts in people. You know, it's really truly beautiful. And then it's trainable. It's trainable to get yourself into a flow state, because this is where you get the most, creative sparks. And for every person getting to a flow state, it's slightly different. It will activate differently. And this is what the entire Flow Geno project and all the research on flow states explain in more details how it works. But in all cases, it's being in this flow state and training the flow state basically releases some sort of combination of 5 most addictive neurochemicals that your brain can produce and put you in the alpha state. So both of those are also directly linked to meditation and being in the present moment. So flow state is selflessness, timelessness, effortlessness, and richness. So this state will, the time disappears, you stop identifying with who you are, you go beyond who you are, and then you have those moments of downloads, of inspiration, of ideas, right? And it can be business idea, it can be, vision of your life idea, whatever that is creativity. Right? So first you need to realize you are creative, but secondly you have to create a space and moments in which the creativity can flow, right? And we don't have those moments. We live on autopilot. We live keeping our to-do list and following them, and by the end of the week we are so exhausted that we have to literally like put ourselves off complete recharging mode, spending all days in front of Netflix because we don't have any energy left. And so we have to redesign our days where we can plug into our creativity before we do anything else, because it's the most important thing to do. Create spaciousness. Don't answer your phone for 1 hour after waking up. Like imagine, right? We wake up in theta brainwaves, alpha brainwaves. These are the most creative moments, the most peaceful moments. And what do? Open our notifications. Beta, right? Right away. Complete change of our literally physiological system. Right away going to the panic modes and anxiety just by touching your phone, right? And if we just could extend that moment in the morning where we would do nothing really, we would create enough spaciousness, drink our tea in silence. I can't even express how many ideas can come to you. If you feel overwhelmed, take that half an hour per day. Your whole day will unfold completely differently. Your entire nervous system is going to reset. So creativity, this is how you train it, by realizing all of those hacks that you can do in order to allow yourself to be more creative and express yourself more.
Do you know what? There's 5 guys at my gym, and they keep accosting me around the cross trainer. Honestly, director, I'm there, and I enjoy it, because I need to zone out when I'm in the gym. I'm there and I'm working. And they always come, and the conversation ends up being amazing. And a lot of what they're dealing with is that jump start in the morning. And listening to what you're saying is, I almost feel like it's the instructive information I need to be like, okay, what you're now going to do is, and I plan to do this, I'm going to buy everybody like a little notepad, and I'm going to implore them for the first 30 minutes, go grab yourself a coffee. I'll even pay for not the coffee, but a tea. Something obvious, because we're reducing the cortisol.
Exactly.
Or better yet, I'm going to get, those the water containers that has like a litre. I'm going to get everybody one of those, their own personal. Like, fill that up with Brita filtered water the night before. Have that in the morning and write.
Yeah.
And I want them to watch just even whatever comes to mind.
100%.
Because people so much are so, and it's like you said, and it's kind of leading on to the next question I wanted to ask you. You can see as an educator the minute what you've planted has germinated in a person's mind. They cannot hide it. The way the eyes are the window to the soul, when you're educating and it drops and it roots, because you can't see the seed when it's rooting in the ground.
Absolutely.
That is one of probably the most liberating and satisfying things, because you realize a person has been able to break through something that they couldn't before, and then they realize the fertility of the soil of their own mind and their own heart. Out of speaking and obviously writing your own books and stuff, which do you prefer more, if you prefer one more than the other, and which do you think is most impactful to people?
I mean, writing, it's not a question for me.
Okay.
It's my creative language.
Wow.
So I am writing constantly. Even if I don't write books, I write. I write poems. I write articles. I just write whatever I post, you know. It's my way of integrating. So whenever I have an idea or a concept of changing the paradigm of ourselves, of reality, I have to almost give a birth to it in a written form. Yeah. It's like my way of integrating it as a knowledge. And only when that's done, I'm able to share it verbally. I'm not... sometimes, like you said, you feel in information within you and you understand it on emotional level, but you can't yet speak about this. So I need to write it down in order to be able to speak about this. But then working with people, it's uncomparable for me. I love people. I love humans. And I see beauty in every single person I encounter because this is how I train myself, to see beauty in everyone, to find about every single person something I can love and I can appreciate. And so I want to give that as a gift, my gift to people, to make every single person to feel seen, to feel appreciated, to feel empowered by what I can tell them and how can I make them feel. And that's kind of how I work with people. For me, it's never making people dependent on me. It's giving people all the tools that I know, everything I've ever learned, and tell them, you can do it. You can get exactly where I'm at, and your life can be as amazing as mine is. And this is how you do it, right? When I coach people one-on-one, my rule is like very rarely go more than five sessions, maximum 10, because I don't want anyone to rely on me.
Yes.
I give them all I know in a very short period of time, and then they just call me like, Dorota, this happened and I used this and I've done this. And this is what this life is about. Life is never going to stop challenging you. But if you are equipped with tools where you can overcome and manage any situation, nothing will frighten you anymore. Like I can lose everything tomorrow. I'm zero afraid of that because I know I can recreate myself. Yeah. And I know that my mind has been trained to the point that nothing will really... nothing can kill me, you know? Nothing can frighten me. Nothing can overwhelm me anymore. Yeah. And that's what I want to give as a gift to people. It's like, you don't have to suffer. You can transform beautifully, you know? Yeah. And it's really to become comfortable with the unknown. Because so many people want to predict the future, right? What is going to be? How will I do? And based on whatever their perception is, this is how they feel in the present moment, right? We chase this otherness constantly. We chase to something different to what is here and now. But if I, ask you, if I told you will never change, even a bit, would you be okay with who you are here and now? And can you get yourself to the state where you would be? If I told you your life will not change, even for a bit, it will, of course. But if you ask yourself, it won't change, could I be okay? And training that mentality, constantly bringing yourself to the present moment, is what this life is about, because there is nothing else by the present moment. It's present moment and another present moment and another present moment. And this escape to the future constantly creates a massive anxiety within our system, because we create all these different versions of reality that none of them will happen, you know? What if I ask you, like, could you predict a year ago what actually happened exactly through that year? No, it's always different, right? So why wouldn't we let go? And if I ask you, I can give you and show you exactly how your future will unfold in the next 50 years. Would you want to know?
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
And yet we are constantly trying to guess.
That's the truth.
Why?
Keys of control.
Control, exactly.
Yeah,
but actually, if you really realize, I don't even want to know what's gonna be tomorrow. How flat would be my life if I knew my future?
Yeah.
So if you really profoundly understand you do not want to know the future, that's what creates surrender. That's what removes the control. It's like, I am comfortable with the unknown. Unknown is actually great.
Yeah.
It creates excitement. It creates magic. It creates possibility. It creates anticipation. And if you really, really profoundly will sort of like plant that as a seed in your system, you will learn to live constantly in the present moment. And most of your problems, most of your worries, most of your anxiety will automatically disappear. So, you know, this is the answer for me, to constantly bring yourself to here and now, and really enjoy that to the fullest. I always ask myself, if whatever I cut myself to be disappointed or unsatisfied, I ask myself, what can I make about this moment to make it special? Because there is nothing else that I have right now. And there is always something you can do to shift and to make this moment special. And you will realize, like, you need very little in order to be happy. Very, very little.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you, before we round off, that you mentioned about the relationship as the thing that broke you. Not the sickness, not the difficulties, the panic attacks, it was being a relationship that broke down, that finally everything caught up. And I just want to ask, why do you think that is, and how did that manifest?
For some reason, it was always just my weakest aspect of my life, you know, relationship.
In what sense? In that you invested
people,
too heavily, or
no, I do believe we come to this planet and everyone has, you know, a different path to transform. Some people will transform through work and will have will go through being bankrupt and betrayed in work, and will have all this drama at work. But their relationship will be peaceful. Right. And other people will go through a transformation in relationship, and it's very individual journey. For me, it was very clear since I was born that I was going to transform from a relationship. So my other aspects of my life were quite easy, actually. Of course, there was also a relationship at work that brought me lots of learnings. But yeah, the romantic relationship was something that would always evolve me in the biggest possible way, and I am in peace with that, and I'm aware of that. So I also, you know, react very differently to it, and I really treat every person, every partner as a perfect partner at this specific moment to show me exactly where I am at. So every person is a perfect person, because if they were not, you would attract someone different. So it doesn't matter how long it will last, it matters how much am I able to extract from it and learn from it and evolve from it, because every relationship holds the gifts of some sort. And it holds something to show you about yourself. If you are like, no, this is not perfect, goodbye, you are not evolving.
That's why I believe there's no failed relationships.
Pardon me?
That's why I believe there's no failed relationships in that sense. You know, I don't think a relationship can fail. They can end, or they can transform and transmute into something new and evolve, or devolve perhaps. But the nature of the lessons taken from the relationship have always been in some enlightening way successful, I think. You know, would you agree?
100% I would agree. Every person brings you something, but you need to be ready to see it. And there's so many people who wait for perfection. It's like, oh no, this is not this person, doesn't tick all the boxes, so goodbye. No. Why you are meeting this person here and now? If they are lacking some things that you know, wish they didn't have, or you wish something different, what within you is still attracting that? What within you has to shift to attract something different? What they're showing you about yourself? Every person is valuable. Every person is perfect at that specific moment. And you only know that you fully extracted all the learnings from every relationship when you become neutral to the person. When you are not triggered anymore. Until you're triggered by the person, you haven't extracted anything. And you will keep attracting the same problems. Yeah.
Love that. Now you're based in Bali, and I want for now, whilst in this moment, in this transition of being, and as you're developing, and I really wanted to kind of obviously end our conversation with what I think will be a massive legacy with your work and what you're doing. And I don't see Bali as being the only center in the world that you will be involved in.
Absolutely not.
Please give us just a little bit of insight into the amazing project you have in Bali.
So we are right now building a transformational center, which will be a space for basically expressing your inner magic. It will be ongoing workshop place where will be, like you can imagine, ongoing year-long conference where you will have breathwork, facilitation, sun healing, you know, all sort of expression, workshops, amazing teachers coming, and you can come at any point in time and have that experience. We will be doing in the center also international events, big conferences for 300, 400 people. And next to the conference, the Transformational Center will build a hotel for deep multi-sensory experiences when people can actually heal a lots of deep traumas. So we start with Bali, but the idea is to build it worldwide, to build it in Ibiza, Costa Rica, Tulum, and all other places where people come to heal. So this is one of the projects. I'm also writing the second book. I'm constantly doing some sort of retreats and events. So I always invite people to come and join me on this profound journey of transformation and really releasing and healing your physical body and energy body from whatever is holding you back, and expanding your capacity to receive everything that is there for you to receive from life.
Amazing. Dorota, I couldn't have asked to, because this is the first actual episode that we've come back in since we've taken a little time away. So in order to kind of reintroduce and to come in with something on this level, thank you for making the time.
Thank you.
And so much of what you've said has been illuminating and enlightening. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to take some amazing practical tools for their everyday. And I think that's a big thing. And sometimes that's the only thing that my heart yearns for in some of the spaces that I see where, you know, people are trying to help people. There's not always the practical tool that I can take away now and use tomorrow, even use today. So, yeah, just thank you for making time and being so open.
Thank you for having me.
Being
This was amazing.
Please keep us updated about the Wellness Centre and the book.
Yes.
And I think we might just end up turning up to Bali anyway. So
I have my retreat in November. Come.
Hey,
it works.
We got a live in November, then we'll jump straight over.
It works.
That works very nicely.
It works.
Come.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for listening to Spill. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can listen to loads more just like this.
Just like this.
Not just like this, but variations of this.
Variations and similarities.
And we'll see you on the next one. Love you. Take care. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Awesome.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much. That was such a beautiful conversation.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for sharing it so openly.
I'm so excited for what you're going to be doing.
Yes, you have to be part of it. You're going to speak on my stages.
Thank you to Sydney S, Angel Lynch, Derek Singleton, Kayla Penner, Caitlin Marsh, Asher, Olivia North, Swift, Missinette Mitchell, Chantel, Wilma Anderson, Josh, Jess Wilkins, Saffron Coyle, Ginevra, Anna Mortimer, Luke, Jared Crumpler, Anna Crow, Grace, Nina Parrish, Kristen Reeve, Alex Morton, Kate, Michaela Nathan, Jamie Scott, Lucy, Layla Gopava, Scarlett Faye, Raven Nicole, Andrew Rowland, Ellie Newton, Vanessa, Maisie Hancock, Lewis James, Leo Flanagan, Louisa Marnock, George Baxter, Vicky Malatos, Luke Constable, Emily Layla Cranfield, Helena Garcia, Lucas Trivelli, Eamon Rolls, Ariana Uamama, Daniel Freeman, Till, and Iman Hassan. Thank you all very, very much.